right of the people, baby.
To truly choose to love is heroic.
Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people. And we're going to have to put it back in the hands of the people.
It takes the willingness to stand by and do what has to be done when it has to be done.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Off The Shelf Book Club. We are excited to be back with you. We apologize for our absence for the past month. You know, life happens, but we are going to get straight into our book today. We Do This Till We Free Us by Mariame Kaba. We really appreciate everyone's patience with us, and we really hope that you guys continue to learn and, you know, deconstruct your minds with us as we go on this journey. And as we move forward, we would like you to always make sure you're following along with the questions down in the description. We always have questions. And if you want to, if you have an opinion that you would like to be heard, drop those comments, send us DMs, send us an email. Do whatever you can to reach out to us. We're always willing to put out other voices and other opinions. Just keep it classy, man. Make sure you're not being derogatory in any way. We're not letting that slide. We are a safe place. But we also do want to open ourselves to hear other opinions so we can work with each other, because at the end of the day, we all do need to build a coalition with each other. But again, moving forward, make sure that you share the video, share our profiles, check out our Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Threads, all that. Make sure you check it out. Hype this video so we can get in front of more people. We want to spread this word again. And before we get into our book today, we do want to get into our land acknowledgement. The Off The Shelf Book Club wants to offer our utmost respect to those who came before us on this land. It is important that we protect and acknowledge the history of indigenous people of America. Minnesota Makoche, which means the land of the water that reflects the sky, is the homeland of the Dakota and Anishinaabe people. Minnesota in its history has taken part in the genocide of Native people and multiple treaties that stripped them from their homelands. Where Off The Shelf Book Club resides is home of the Meta-Wakatan people, which means dwellers of the Spirit Lake. Off The Shelf Book Club will do whatever we can to honor the Native people and their lands and do what we can to aid in the land back movement. Thank you. All right, so now we're going to be getting into part 1 of We Do This Till We Free Us by Mariame Kaba. And we do have 5 questions for y'all, and we want to go over them. The first one is, what would it mean to talk about abolition in a form that talks about adding to society, not taking away?
What do the police do that can easily be put into others' hands, and what does that leave them with?
How does history inform us about how to deal with the police?
What would a community that got all its needs look like?
And how can you practice hope as a discipline? Which I really love that part. I know we haven't talked about the book yet, but I've never heard that, and I loved that part.
I think it's a really good part. I do think we have heard it. I don't want to get too much into that, right at this second, but I think, we've lost its touch and its practice.
Maybe. I just feel like I personally haven't heard those words strung together like that.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by that. It's just like looking at, it's kind of like in a way, I don't really want to draw this correlation, but it is kind of like with religion. You have to practice faith, you know what I mean? And
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and you got to look at
hope
it is
part of religion.
Well, hope is part of everything.
It's part of everything, but it's in particularly, it also is part of religion.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess, getting started into it, what were your thoughts about this first part?
I really like this first part. I feel like it's a good introduction, it first talking about so you're thinking about becoming an abolitionist. Well, you need to have these basic kind of points of understanding and what you like and beliefs, right, in order to like move forward with that, and her breaking them down into the different parts I really like too. And it's not all like sad and depressing like that last one. Like, hope is a discipline. So what does it mean to have hope as a discipline?
Yeah.
What does it mean to have hope? Hope being a part of abolition. I think like a lot of times, right, we talk about like when people hear that, they think of like everything negative you could possibly have, and so that kind of like removes that space.
Yeah. And I thought that I just really like her writing style. It was very like kind of like how I talk. Like it kind of felt almost kind of argumentative, you know. I get it. Like sometimes that could be a flaw, but like the way that she's writing it, like she'd be like, for one, fuck this, pretty much. Oop,
Yeah.
gotta blurb that. But like she does really good with like just taking it, like the little sections in the chapters. It was like, all right, let's break this whole thought down. Like, why do we think like this? Where does this even come from? And it was really, I just appreciate it because, like, adding history to abolition, because a lot of people forget that this is really the same fight from the same abolitionists that were during the Revolutionary War. It's like the same type of fight, different font. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think like what makes that nice is like what's nice about this book and others, like Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Davis, right? They're collections of interviews. And so like the collection of interviews, like outside of I think this book has, and that one, right, they have like a couple of written pieces, but like it's a collection of interviews, so it's naturally, right, like you're reading them talk.
Oh, I didn't know that this is what this. I know that there was a part where it was an interview because it was pretty clear. I didn't realize that that's what most of this was.
Yeah, if you look at the like different parts and like their sections, right? Like it'll tell you with this person, interview by this yeah.
I guess I didn't pay that much attention. I guess I should have did that. But I do like that. I do like
It's
the
nice.
talking. I prefer like, because I mean the writing that I do, it's not this type of writing, but like I like making it sound like it's me. Like nobody else could say it like that. Even if somebody said it, you'd be able to tell it's kind of worded by me.
Yeah.
And I feel that way towards this so far. It seems like she kind of has a writing style that talking style too, clearly, like that I vibe with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess let's get into this first question. The first question is, what would it mean to talk about abolition in a form that talks about adding to society and not taking away?
Yeah. So I mean this question comes from like right the first page. She talks about, or on the third paragraph, she says, every vision is also a map. As freedom fighter Kwame Ture taught us, when you see people call themselves revolutionary, always talking about destroying, but never talking about building or creating, they're not revolutionary. They do not understand the first thing about revolution is creating. And like, I think when you look out into the world and like the space, right, the community that is being built currently around abolition and revolution right now, is that there's very minimal talk about creating things, because usually the people that are creating, like, they're just out there creating, right? They're just out there creating these spaces. But like, I feel like online is like a really big part of this space now, unlike it has been in the past, just because of the new age that we're in. And everybody gets online, all they do is talk about destroying things.
Yeah.
Destroying. But like, and I think that also is what scares people about abolition. But it's like, if I not rewrite, but if I tell you that all it is about like creating things, it's about creating spaces, it's about creating stability, it's about creating resources, it doesn't seem as bad. You might ask me like how that works and may not think that that's possible, but that's a whole nother separate issue.
Right. And like a way that I try to explain it personally when I talk to people about abolition is like, I don't talk about the fact that like, I try to avoid saying the words prison sometimes, because like when you sit there and you say you're getting rid of prisons, everybody's first thing is like, oh, what are you gonna do with these very bad people? And I'm talking about like, I understand that there are people that some people will have to be separated from society because of so and so reasons. That's just gonna have to happen, but they also don't have to be in the situation that we put them in currently. Like, that is it, because we also want to like I think that there's this illusion going on within American propaganda that they've been able to get off for so long, is that like, oh, if we over police, we are cracking down on crime, like we're lowering crime, when it's really not the case. And we don't, like, you don't want to live in a world with that crime. So it's like kind of like trying to show them like, okay, I understand your worries about that. Like, I would worry about that too if I was thinking like you. You know, if you thought that I was just getting rid of this, just getting rid of it and letting the world just wreak havoc on itself. No, we also do have to, like, there's a replacement that has to happen.
Yeah.
And we have to also look at it like, she said it a few times in here in other ways. But it's pretty much kind of talking about like, we can't sit here and use the master's tools to stay, if we want to like not be in the same system, in the same house. We have to use different tools. And it's like, the last line in here is, liberation under oppression is unthinkable by design. It's time for a jailbreak of the imagination in order to make the impossible possible. And so, yeah, we got to like get creative and like figure out what's a better way to deal with these things.
Yeah, I agree. I think like a space though also is like how we really like framing is important. Like, if I tell you, oh, well, if you ask me what is an abolitionist, and I tell you an abolitionist is creating resources, it's creating spaces, it's creating possibilities to the point where we don't actually need prisons and police. Because I also think like there's this space, like, not think, I know, like, I know, right, having police doesn't actually mean safety in the vast majority of people's heads. If I were to ask you, if you were to see a neighborhood with a heavy police presence, are you going to think that neighborhood is safe, or are you going to think that neighborhood's unsafe?
Right.
You're going to think that neighborhood's unsafe. And it's, which means that, like, you visualizing police does not mean that safety is there, right? If you grab your schema of what a bad neighborhood is, police is going to be at the top of that list. And you might, like, sure, police means safety, but we're not looking at them in a safe way. These neighborhoods are still bad, right? They're still unsafe. Even with the heavy police presence there. Because if that wasn't the case, then those neighborhoods would look like the ones that you think are. We'd actually have less.
Right.
We'd have less
where like
unsafe neighborhoods
if the
because of it.
It's like when you're in certain cities, like if the police have to pop out for something, that's a whole big deal. Like everybody in town gonna hear about it. Like that's the type of reality that we need to have, and not like with the police though, because we need to get rid of them. But it's like why are we okay with being so okay with possibly being the next victim? And it reminds me of like what you were talking about was this quote from page 3. Most people assume that incarceration helps to reduce violence and crime, thinking the criminal punishment system might be racist, sexist, classist, ableist, and unfair, but at least it keeps me safe from violence and crime. And like that's literally not the truth. It's quite the opposite. And why are we okay with being a potential victim? Like in America, everyone can be victimized quite easily. And it's because of the system that we have in place, because everybody can go get a gun. Police have way too much power over people, or this just over the citizens of any city, any place. The incentive to arrest people and create crime in ways, create disturbances. Like it's just, why are we so okay with that? And that's once you realize that, like, oh, with this current system, I'll always be a potential victim. Now let's try and create a system where, like, that's not even a thought in our heads. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like I think of like one thing that people struggle with that I think we've talked more about, right? Just like you said, right? That fact of like prisons technically keep you safe. But she says like at the end of page 3 and like into page 4 that like I really like, where she says a world without harm is impossible, and it isn't what an abolitionist vision purports to achieve. Rather, abolitionist politics and practice contend that disposing of people by locking them away in jails and prisons does nothing significant to prevent, reduce, or transform harm in the egregious?
Sorry, I wasn't following quite along. I was just listening to you. Where is it? Keep pointing out. Where is it? Aggregate?
In the aggregate. It rarely, if ever, encourages people to take accountability for their actions. Instead of our adversarial court system discourages people from ever acknowledging, let alone taking responsibility for the harm that they've caused. At the same time, it allows us to avoid our own responsibilities, to hold each other accountable instead of delegating it to a third party, one that has been built to hide away social and political failures. An abolitionist imagination takes us along a different path than if we tried to simply replace the prison industrial complex with similar structures.
Exactly. And we can't just sit here and like reforming is not an option, clearly. Like that's where she led me with. That's where she kind of led me to when I was reading that. I was like, yeah, obviously reforming is not an option, because all these times that we tried to reform, it's never been this. It's always actually added on to the problem, been worse for the problem. And like the later on in page 4, she says, first, when we said about trying to transform society, we must remember that we ourselves will also need to transform. And we also, and a little bit later on in this paragraph, we have also thoroughly internalized these logics of oppression, that if oppression were to end tomorrow, we would be likely to reproduce the previous structures, because we are so interlocked with our own oppression. And we think that the oppression is saving us, that the oppression is safety. It's like what is it called? Is it Stockholm syndrome? Beauty and the Beast shit.
Yeah.
I feel like that's Stockholm syndrome because we got comfortable within the abuse, and we think that that's like, we think that this shit's okay. We're falling and we fall in love with the system. We think that the law and order that they give us is right, that we deserve it.
We created a world for ourselves where we believe that there are no other options in this, which was something that was indoctrinated in us.
And if we don't change our thought process and the systems, yeah, we're slaves to our oppression. You know what I mean? Like we are. It's like when I personally had to undo some things that I had, learned growing up that were wrong. It took a lot of reworking. You know what I mean? Because that's all you know. You know what I mean? But once you realize, like, no, there is a chance of a better world. Like, that isn't how things have to be. It makes life worth living. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Less anxiety, less stress. And it's important that we all do that. That's just like the self-care that we all need to have or not even just self-care, but like what she said in the book is, if we can sit here and like separate ourselves from that abusive pattern, that is like care for your community. That's community care. That's because not only will you have a better life for that, everyone around you will too, because you are living healthier.
To kind of like, I guess, to end the point, because to completely change everything, right? To get rid of the systems that we know can really seem scary. And she says it here, like on page 5, changing everything might sound daunting, but it also means there are many places to start, infinite opportunities to collaborate, and endless imaginative interventions and experiments to create. Everybody has an interest in things and can apply those interests to an abolitionist practice. In this book, like, she works a lot with domestic violence, domestic abuse, sex working, like workers, like things like that, right? Like that seems to be like her niche, and so she creates like an abolitionist space, right, for these people. And so we'll hear about a lot of different stories from people, whether it's them being in prison due to a domestic violence case or sex work that she has like talked with, or just has like heard their space. But like it can be anything, right? Reproductive health, right? Women's rights, they all have the ability to have abolitionist spaces. It doesn't have to just be specific to criminal justice in a sense. Of course, like there are, like, they can clearly be connected, and they are in ways. We talk about reproductive justice, there are women going to jail for things that they shouldn't be in terms of their reproductive rights, etc. But like, that's your niche. You should go do it. If it's education, there's so many spaces, right, for abolition to be in education, things like that. And so don't feel like you have to like change absolutely everything. Take one thing that you are really good at or you find real interest in and create abolitionist space within that.
Because everything has to be eventually deconstructed. You know what I mean?
And not everybody's going to know everything.
And we have to like lean on each other. Like I think that's going to be one of the hardest parts about just overall abolition, is going from this individualistic mindset to a community driven mindset.
Yeah.
So moving on to our second question, what do the police do that can easily be put into other hands, and what does that leave them with?
So
Go ahead.
this question comes from page 12. And Mariame Kaba, she talks about at the very end, history offers evidence of the intractability of the problem of police violence. What should we do then? Quite simply, we must end the police. The hegemony of police is so complete that we often can't begin to imagine a world without the institution. We are too reliant on the police. In fact, the police increase their legitimacy through all of the non-police related work that they assume, including doing wellness and mental health checks. Why should armed people be deployed to do the work of community members and social workers? Why have we become so comfortable with ceding so much power to the police? Any discussion of reform must begin with the following questions. How will we decrease the number of police, and how will we defund the institution?
Mm-hmm. Exactly, because it is like a good, like, okay, I hate having this conversation with people because it's like they want to talk about how the fact is that, oh, like most places you do have, like, they want you to have a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree or some sort, but like you don't need a degree to become a police officer. That's just it. You don't have to have much training at all either. Most of your training will be done with shooting. Majority of your training is shooting to kill.
Right.
So
the vast majority of police officers that you're going to see every day do not need a degree. Yeah. You like I don't want y'all coming out here but like, actually, a detective, an inspector,
right.
And if like, yeah, no, those do, but you don't see those on your day-to-day basis.
Exactly.
You see like your beat cops. Those you don't need a degree for.
And those same cops are the ones that are doing a lot of the terrorizing of neighborhoods. The ones that don't have the social work skills, who don't even have the social skills clearly, who don't have the empathy skills, the just community working skills, none of the skills that it takes to deal with like real, like fragile, and I won't even say fragile, but like delicate situations. Like, I'm sorry, if like, if you need help, go get it. We should put a number in there after I say this. But if I were to be like ready to end my life in public, right? The last person I want to deal with is a fucking cop.
Yeah.
The last person I want to deal with is a cop. Because at the end of the day, if you don't end up doing it, they might end up brutalizing you. You know what I mean? It's common.
Sonia Massey, right? Like the reality was you need a social worker there.
Oh, yeah.
Probably an EMT.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. Like police officers should not have ever entered her home. There's no reason to do that. She was not throwing boiling water on nobody.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly another reason too. Like, not just the fact that this lady needed a social worker there. Also, because why the fuck you give her a direct order, a demand to get the boiling water off the stove, and then you kill her because she does it? Like, that is the unprofessional. It's unprofessional, and it's the common occurrence for all police officers everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Is that these unprofessional mistakes end up costing people's lives, and nobody has to fucking pay for it besides the people who lost a family and the people who lost their life.
And maybe the city.
And maybe the city might have to pay a little chunk. But that literally can be all avoided if we sit here and we divest from the police, because the police already get way too much of our tax dollars, and invest into other programs that are built for dealing with delicate situations, because majority of situations where cops are called for are delicate and are being dealt with people who got gorilla hands that can't be delicate. They gonna just fucking smash the shit. That's what they do every fucking time.
There's a reality that like a lot of people right? Like the police don't need to do a lot of things, like especially when we're just handling like disputes or stuff, or like people being too loud, things like that. Like, mind you, like somebody's grandmas out there can handle like a group of 10 boys that are friends, because if she walks up into that space and tells them that what they're doing is not okay, I promise you they're gonna shut up. Because like certain community like members have that power. Like there are so many communities around, and or at least at the time, I do think like to an extent like we don't have that as much as we used to, and that's an issue in itself.
Because a lot of our OGs are either locked up, dead, or fucked up.
Yeah, but like there are elders like in the community that you might not even be like technically like related to, that can get people to act right just because they say something. And that in itself is more important than a bunch of police officers coming to get in there, tell everybody stop and write some tickets. I also think it also is to an extent, there needs to be like a space where we need to be not as like harsh and punitive on people. Because why are you calling the police because some kids decided to listen to some rap music while playing basketball?
Oh my fucking God. Swear to God. Oh my God.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
Like, and it doesn't actually like inherent like whatever you're like, it doesn't bother whatever you're doing. It never did. You're just like, you're being penal. Because what did you think calling the cops were gonna do? Do you think that those kids deserve to go to jail? That's actually crazy behavior if you do. They're playing basketball, listening to rap music. In a public park, they're allowed to do those things. You can't say that they're not able to. They can. You know how many parks there are over here? Go to a different one with a damn tennis court. Go to a different one with a swing set if you really don't want your kids listening to that music. Like, it's for everybody, and everybody is allowed to do things that they want to, and that's not actually like harming anybody.
And it's really like when you call the police too, you like in my head, there's only so much that's gonna happen here, and it's all really not. It's like the chance of it going like nothing actually really happens is really fucking low. Like me and my family, we're lucky that shit didn't happen. Like shit didn't escalate when that shit happened when they called it on our family at the park. That shit's bullshit.
Like, and I actually hate to say this, but like you're literally wasting their time doing that.
Right, wasting tax
All
dollars.
they do, like realistically, like majority of police officers, like they're not out there fighting crime. No, they're out there doing paperwork. You're wasting their important paperwork time. Why would you do that? They got shit to do. Let them do it.
Exactly, and like, and to see how police, because like police are our only law enforcement for real, so we see that they are clearly not good at their jobs because for years upon years, we have seen a constant growth in crime because they continuously over police. When will it not be the answer? Like, it's, what's the fucking definition of insane? If you do the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result, you are insane. So if we sit here and we continuously over police these communities and not figure out different resources to give them, we're insane. We think that policing is the answer when it isn't. Because I did a little bit of researching before I started the pod today, and out of all the most, and I hate using these terms, but I feel like this puts it into a perspective of not including like war-stricken areas, because that's also different, and places that have conflict, right? But out of the most developed countries, the United States has the highest crime rate, violent crime rate, murder rate, and is the lowest in overall life expectancy women's life expectancy and LGBTQ life expectancy. Now, let's go to one more fact. We are 4.1% of the world population. 4.1% of the world population. And of that, the United States holds 20% of the prison population. So, if out of those few facts, you can look them up yourself. But out of those few facts, you can see that with the over-policing, it is not lowering murder rates. It is not lowering violent crimes. Me personally, I don't think that Americans are all that bad or just overall bad people to the point where we just commit more crimes. I just don't think that. I have a little bit more faith in humanity. I have a little bit more faith in this country. Contrary to popular belief, I kind of love this country because this is all I know. And I would love to see it in a better place. But obviously in this situation, it's not going to. Mm-hmm. Because we constantly see let's just stick with murder. The place with legal guns. In some states, you could just go to Walmart and go get you a gun. Without no paperwork. And the amount of paperwork that you got to do to get a gun ain't that fucking much. And we have the highest murder rate. We have the highest prison population. There's multiple reasons for that. Because we fucking profit off of the prisons. But also, because we profit, we dump all this money, billions of dollars each year. Billions of dollars each year into the police. And they're not doing their job. Because if they're doing their job with the billions of dollars that we give them, they would lower crime. They would lower murder rates. Mm-hmm. Just overall violent crimes. Or all crimes. Because not just violent crimes are we the lead. We are the lead in just overall crime. And if you think that Americans just overall just commit more crimes because that's what Americans do, I don't know what to tell you about that. I don't believe that. I believe it's a system in place that is creating these conditions. And you have to be blind to not see that. Because ever since the creation of the fucking police, ever since the creation of the modern prison system, we see the numbers. They correlate. It ain't a coincidence. All right, but moving on to our third question here. How does history inform us about how to deal with the police? Kind of just answered that a little bit, if you want to say something.
Yeah. I think, right, it's not, and she says this on page 15, history is instructive, not because it offers us the blueprint for how to act in the present, but because it can help us ask better questions for the future. Mm-hmm. And so understanding history, of police is really important. So when we look specifically about the history of police in America, and particularly, I want to specify this because somebody out there, right, be like, actually, no. Yes, right, policing technically came from Britain, given, right, the population of colonizers that came to America.
Right.
But our current system, the beginning of our current system and how our current system was created came from slave patrols. So when we seen something that basically was just evolved, right, was slave patrols, where people were specifically hired to make sure that slaves did not leave their plantations and not try to escape. If they did, their job was to catch them. They're slave catchers. And so that's where that started. Then, right, of course, the abolishment of slavery happened. That would mean that there's technically like no more, like there would be no more slave catchers, except Jim Crow happens. And I think like if more in depth of this history would come from a book called The New Jim Crow. But Jim Crow happens, and Jim Crow or Black Codes, if you're in the North part, all it does is basically makes things illegal for Black people. So if you're caught walking on the same side of the sidewalk as white people, like that could be illegal. If you're caught by a police officer, you're going to jail. You're going to prison. And now you can work, right, as a legal slave at this point. And so that is how slave catchers evolved, right, to basically the police officers that we know up until this point, because that's going to be basically the most recent. Then from there, right, Jim Crow gets outlawed. Okay, so then we gotta figure out some other ways, whether it's drugs, guns, etc., right? They figure out different ways to jail us and imprison us. On top of that, right, the police violence specifically never stopped, right? We know that the police were extremely violent towards us during the civil rights movement. There's pictures and pictures of pictures to prove it. But here, specifically on page 15, she talks about a history dating back to, she talks to different places between, she says, the Lexaw Committee undertook the first major investigation into police misconduct in New York City in 1894. At the time, the most common complaint against the police was about clubbing, the routine bludgeoning of citizens by patrolmen armed with nightsticks or blackjacks, as the historian Marilyn Johnson has written. The Wickersham Commission convened to study the criminal justice system and examine the problems of prohibition enforcement, offered a scathing indictment in 1931, including evidence of brutal interrogation strategies, and put the blame on a lack of professionalism among the police. After the 1967 urban uprisings, the Kerner Commission found that police actions were final incidents before the outbreak of violence in 12 of the 24 surveyed disorders. Its report listed a now familiar set of recommendations, like working to build community support for law enforcement and reviewing police operations in the ghetto to ensure proper conduct by police officers. These commissions didn't stop the violence, they just served as a counter-insurgent function each time the police violence led to protests. Calls for similar reforms were trotting out in a response to the brutal police beating of Rodney King in 1991 and the rebellion that followed, and again after the killings of Michael Brown and Eric Garner. So what's happening, it's basically like it's just evolving, right? We're just evolving it to a space where it's like, okay, well, now these people won't talk very much if we do this, if we do that. The reality is like nothing's actually helping. More recent study about the NYPD, in particularly around like stop and frisks, they did bias training. So they had the police officers answer questions before the bias training and after the bias training. And they also looked at their how many times they stopped and frisked people based on their race in particularly. And there was actually between before and after, there's about a 1 to 2% increase in stop and frisks among, like, specifically like Black and Latinx Latinx people.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work? That don't even make no sense. All these reforms, this bias training that all these police need to put in so that they're doing better. It actually did the exact opposite. Why that is, who knows? Because their questions that they answered showed improvement, but their actions did the exact opposite.
And it's because we're still working within the same system. The same system that was slave patrols once. That's why. And, like, you know, I'm not trying to hear the whole good cop type talk, because at the end of the day, you can't be broken and still be good for the community. Like, that just doesn't go. That doesn't work. That's not how it works, and it's been broken since it started. I mean, just like what you were talking about earlier with, like, how there you could get charged with walking on the wrong side of the sidewalk and now you're legally a slave. It reminds me of this podcast that I watched one time of it's of Arian Foster's Now What podcast. I was dropped about like 8 years ago. It's with this sociologist Alex Alonso, and he's a street gang. That was like his specialty. He researched the most, and he demonstrated like how it was like a system to literally catch you up. Mm-hmm. How they created the 3-strike system, how they were and if they suspected you in a gang, if you were caught jaywalking, they would slap your ass with everything that they fucking could. If they caught you just for any reason to take more black and brown bodies, they would. And, you know, just as a reminder, so, you know, once it comes election time and we remember, Kamala Harris was one of the main beneficiaries of that type of situation, of those laws in California. Same with Gavin Newsom. Fuck him. He ain't getting to the office because these people continue to lean on these systems that have actively oppressed all of us. Because, yes, it is skewed. At the end of the day, it is skewed on Black, Latinx, even Native Americans. All are killed at higher rates than white people, but even white people and Asian people, they still are killed by the police. Unarmed people killed by the police. Mm-hmm. Unarmed people terrorized by the police. Everybody gets terrorized by the police. Because if you poor, they gon' fuck with you. Because you can't afford to fight back.
Yeah.
And like at the end of the day, that system needs to be deconstructed. And we can't sit here and act blind to it. The longer we act blind to it, the longer it's going to be, and the harder it's going to be to deconstruct. I mean, we're already 200 plus years in this bitch. Yeah. 300 years, damn near. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we just have to, like, if you don't see the correlations, if you think if you think that's a coincidence, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. But everybody would genuinely have a great benefit to the abolition of prisons, police, just the overall like systems that we know of today in their oppressive ways. Like if we abolish all of them, it affects not only the people that it was oppressing, mm-hmm. It makes overall the quality of life better. You want to move on to the next question?
Sure.
Should probably try and wrap these two up in the next 15.
Okay.
What would a community... Oh, sorry. Question 4 we got. What would a community that got all of its needs look like?
I think for me specifically, right? And there's, like, I think we talked about this a lot with the last book, right? one, we need to understand, like, where does crime come from? Crime comes from desperation, struggling communities, communities that are highly criminalized, things like that, like, come from the fact that there are a lack of resources and a lack of, like, needs. And, like, a lot of that time usually, like, stems from things like money. You sell drugs to make money. You make that money so you can pay your rent, you can pay your electric bill, you can pay your light bill, you can put gas in your car, so you can go to work, right? You stealing means is because you don't have the money to buy the things that you need. And hell, maybe even the things that you want, because we all deserve things that we want sometimes, God forbid.
Mm-hmm.
And I seen somebody scan a tin of freaking baby formula, and it was like $40 a tin. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
That's just food for a baby that you're forcing women to have.
And they know that crime will rise because they're price gouging.
And then you putting it behind, like, locked, don't even make no sense whatsoever, right? So, like, eliminate, like, part of abolition is eliminating those factors. It's eliminating the fact that you're putting baby formula behind locked doors. It's eliminating the fact that, like, these things are so expensive. And if we can't get rid of, or if we can't put in laws or get rid of these companies that are price gouging and are raising these prices to an absurd amount, it's providing people with money just because they're alive. I know that may be a crazy concept for some people, but you would also get the money. Like, you wouldn't not get the money. We can even argue, right, at these millionaires and billionaires that we see, right? Like, they're going to get the money too, because it's universal based income. Everybody that is alive, that we can account for, gets universal based income to allow them to live their lives. That's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing for anybody. Matter of fact, it's all them taxes that you put in coming back to you.
Exactly, because you don't even see, the only time you see them is when you see the cherries and berries behind you. That's when you see your tax dollars really at work. It's the only time you do. The fuck is you talking about? Like, you gotta, wouldn't you want to use your tax money more? Wouldn't you want to see your tax money more?
You would actively see it through that. You would actively see it through providing housing for people that you can account for. You are a person, you get a home, whether that's an actual house, whether that's an apartment, a townhome. It really doesn't matter. You get a house, like, you get a home, like, you get a roof under your head. That's it. Like, because we can actually do that for people. That's not crazy. You see how many houses people are, like, if you look in your personal neighborhood, I promise you they're building developments on developments on developments of houses. That is all we're seeing constantly, no matter where you are. There is an ability to provide housing for all people, and it not cost millions of, like, dollars for just that one person. $1,000 for just that one person.
And if we sit here and we divest from bullshit, just divest from bullshit, the amount of money that we would have in our hands, like, you know, just a basic one, if we weren't sending, like, billions of dollars each fucking month, week, whatever, to Netanyahu, we would have way more money. Like, the fact that, shout out Mom Donnie, bro. Shout out my guy, Mom Donnie. The fact that he made it free child care for every child under 2 years old in New York City. That is a huge step. And it shows you that it's possible. It shows you that it's possible, period. I don't want to hear any excuses. You just got to want to do it. You just got to want to do it. And it reminds me of like, how do we expect this system to actually do what's right for us? Like, do right by us? It doesn't make much sense. We got to start making them do what we need. We got to make them do that. We got to vote that way. Because,
Yeah.
like, you see how Mamdani is moving. And it reminds me of just this quote from page 24. Of course, a system that never addresses the why behind a harm never actually contains the harm itself. Cages confine people, not the conditions that facilitated their harms or the mentalities that perpetuate violence. They want this system to continue to live on. They want this. They want it because then we're still subjugated to them.
Another thing too is like the military.
Oh, my
Everybody loves fucking military. Everybody loves military. Blah, blah, blah. We put billions and billions of dollars in our military for what? Things that you could also have. Because what does the military provide? It's like it's people that are active in it. Because I can't remember the word that you call them or whatever. Doesn't matter. They provide them income. It's crazy work. They provide them income. They provide them what? Housing. Crazy. They provide them what? Education. Crazy. All of these things, right? You guys love that so much. You do, because that's why you all like. That's why so many people join to begin with. But what if we just gave that to everybody else in addition to them and to you? That's all. That's all it's at. Like that's
you don't
all
gotta go
we're
murder
asking
somebody for that shit. You know that, right? Like, what if we didn't have to go tell our children to go murder people overseas for them to have free stuff when the majority of the countries that we are attacking have free health care?
Free food.
Yeah.
Y'all get. They give you money. They take some money out to give you breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah. And it's frustrating because if you look at it, like, I mean, are we just, like, we talk about these things like universal anything, like income, healthcare, housing. We talk about that as radical. But, like, we're the only country in the FIFA World Cup, if I'm not mistaken, that doesn't have universal healthcare. The place that we go and we fund constantly, Big Yahoo over there, you want to know what they got? Even though they need our billions of dollars, they need our billions of dollars to go fucking kill children. They can have, universal health care, though. They are able to squeeze that out. What's your excuse? Are you just not smart enough? Are these countries just better than us? Are these countries just smarter than us, better with their money? What I think it is that our just country is led by a lot of evil people who know the harm that they're doing and don't have an issue with it because it lines their pockets up while everybody else is hungry. Well, as long as it's not me and my family out there hungry, well, why should I care? We gotta hold our leaders accountable because it is possible, and Zoran Mamdani is showing us each and every single day that is possible, and we get closer every single day. Shout out the sweep that these democratic socialists have been going through, because they're showing how we can take charge and showing us what what it looks like to have our community needs fulfilled.
Yeah.
So we need to start demanding more, because shit, it ain't okay for the treatment of Americans, period. Not just the people of color, not just the marginalized communities overall. It's just the average American. It's not okay. It's inhumane. Like I said, we have the highest crime rate. That means anybody can be a fucking victim. It's very likely for you to become a victim. I don't want to live with that. I don't want you to live with that. Why are we okay with living in the most dangerous developed country? if you're okay with that, if you're okay with that, being just complacent with that, then I don't know. You clearly don't love your country. Love people. Fuck. But moving into our last question, we got: how can you practice hope as a discipline?
Yeah, I think hope as a different discipline specifically, she's talking about this. You know, hope isn't an emotion, it's not optimism. We have to look at hope as a philosophy of living. It's a discipline that we have to practice every single day. And I think like a big part about that is we lost a space of that when we lost like a part of the church. Like I think like whether we like to admit it or not, like the church is a big part in how we got to certain places to begin with. When we look at slavery and the abolishment of it, the way that like the AME churches were moving to ensure that people were moving to slavery, and like yes, like there are individual people that you can thank for it, but like they were moving them through them churches too. Not only just people's houses, they were moving them through the churches, providing those spaces. The same goes for like the civil rights movement, like how so many people were like grounded in that church. Part of that is because like there are teachings in there like hope being a discipline, like faith being a discipline, that could actively be put beyond, right, the church itself, the religion in itself, that they can easily transfer to the issues that we had, like the inequality and the inequity of it all, and apply that to that. And I think that really helped. And when we removing ourselves from it, which I'm coming from, like I'm never been a part of the church, never thought about being part of church, but
Besides one time.
you think you're funny?
Moving on.
You think you're funny?
Been funny. All right, moving on.
Anyways, like it creates like a practice that we should hold. And when we removed ourselves from that, when we start to remove ourselves from that, because I think that there's a space where that is happening more and more, we forget to keep that with us. We get rid of everything that the church had to offer. But there are actually like some genuine things that we should have kept. And like moving, like hope is a discipline, is one of those things that we should have kept with us, and that you can bring into anything. It doesn't matter what religion you are practicing, your ancestral spirituality, or like nothing at all, right, for that matter. I think because we moved away from that, all of a sudden we just started to live in such a world of despair and sadness that creates such an outward, like the like negative outlook, which I think is also part of the reason why we like bringing it back to that beginning, why we see these revolutionaries always talk about destroy, 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 and never about building.
It's because they already had things built. Like the community was almost built too. Like I think that there was, not just in the churches, but I think within the family, just overall, like you had neighborhoods that were displaced all over America, you know, and I think that that plays a huge part in the lack of, like you said, we do kind of live in this kind of despair right now. It's because like we don't have people to really lean on. We became so isolated, we became so individualistic, and that is not how we as human beings work. We're social beings, and we need each other. We need to lean on each other in order for us to make it through this. In order to make it a better world, we need to lean on each other. And they saw the effects of when we leaned on each other. So they did everything that the United States did everything that they could to stop that. I mean, you saw how they reacted during the civil rights movement, even post civil rights movement with the Black Panthers. You see how they went with them. When these type of revolutionary communities exist, they usually are killed off. I actually heard, I want to say, was it a rap bar? Or maybe it was somebody speaking, but it was our boys don't want to be kings no more because last time they saw one, they shot him. It's the same, and it's not just in the individual of being revolutionaries, but just the overall togetherness that we felt in those times, even though there was a huge divide in the civil rights movement. These communities, though, the divide still had communities within them, and those communities still kind of had an idea of we want fucking freedom. Might have different looks of it.
Yeah, because there's an idea that how we needed to lean on each other, how we needed to provide for one another. Boundaries should help you build your relationships, not isolate you from your relationship. And I think that's a really big issue that's happening right now, is we're providing boundaries with each other that are just isolation. You don't want to do shit with nobody, but you can't, that's not how boundaries work. Yes, you need to protect yourself in some ways, but that's how you build relationships with each other, not isolate yourself from them.
And it's easier to have hope. I find it's easier to have hope if you're around a bunch of people that do have a similar goal. And not only that, they also have hope. It's on a football team, if you guys are down, but everybody's saying, everybody's cheering, everybody's lit, trying to get y'all to rally together. Or if you even just see in any fucking competitive thing, in anything really, when you rally together, it's easier to have hope because it's not just you. It's multiple people. If you don't work, then the next person will work. If that person don't work, then the next person. You know what I mean? And we can lean on each other, and it's just easier to have hope. And I think that when we start building these communities, we have to start having hope in ourselves as well. But once we start building these communities and showing and reminding ourselves what we are capable of as a community, we will then be able to be more disciplined with our hope. But I think that the first step to doing that, it starts with yourself and understanding that you are just one little ant.
Yeah.
You're one little ant in this whole colony. But guess what? That one little ant, you do a lot. You do a lot, and it is important. The work that you do is important. I can't remember what that quote is. I learned it in my African philosophy class. I want to say it is it Ubuntu? I am because you are, and you are because I am. Something along those lines. I am because we are. And it's easier. It's an Ubuntu proverb. I am because we are. And that is kind of the same thing with the ants. We have to, in order for this whole thing to exist, I need to exist, you need to exist. We all need to coexist to move towards this shit. And that's what builds hope, man.
Yeah. I think she says it really well, too, because I think a lot of people, especially today, with, our seclusion, she says it really well. On page 28. you don't have to go anywhere to care for yourself. You can just care for yourself and your community in tandem. And that can actually be much more healthy for you, by the way. Because all this internalized reflection is not good for people. Yes, think about yourself. Reflect on your practice. Okay. But then you need to test it in the world. You've got to be with people. That's important. And I hate people. So I say that as somebody who's actually really antisocial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it's okay to be an introvert, but you have to also be able to have the balance, just like how extroverts need to have a balance. Like, you got to live to learn. You have to learn to live with yourself as an extrovert, and almost as introverts, you have to learn how to live with others.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we're all in this together. We're all on this rock, floating in the middle of nowhere into oblivion. Could blow up at any moment due to whatever reason. We need to get it together because we're stuck here. So let's work on this shit, man.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is all for us today. I appreciate y'all for tuning in, following along. Really look forward to reading this part 2 with y'all. There are no perfect victims. It's going to be interesting. I think that there's going to be some enlightening things to read. But I appreciated this first part. Thought it was a good setup and segue to just overall abolition. I think we had an interesting jump in with Unbuild Walls by Silky Shah. It was an interesting jump in because we didn't really get to talking about like what even is abolition.
Mm-hmm.
But this one's kind of going in deeper into what it is and what it means and why. Why are we trying to abolish these things? So I appreciate it. And we hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode. Remember, like, share, comment, drop it in the emails, text us in the DMs. Hit our DMs with your opinions. We appreciate you guys. And you are much, like we said, community is necessary. So we're trying to build a community of thinkers, deconstructors, revolutionaries, abolitionists.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're trying to do. So, again, let's lean on each other and, are disciplined with hope.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Catch y'all next time.
I write it to people, baby.
To truly choose to love is heroic.
Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people. And we're going to have to put it back in the hands of the people.